Hello students, you are welcome to our mathematics class. Today I'll be teaching you one very important topic in mathematics. Very important. This topic is fraction. Alright, fractions. Have you heard about fractions before? When you heard about it the first time, what came to your mind? So today I'll be telling you what fraction is, and we're going to see the things that we need to learn on the fraction. On the board here, I have the meaning of fraction. A fraction is a mathematical statement or expression which is a ratio of two numbers. When you hear ratio, ratio is something about division. If I give you 2:4, it means 2 divided by 4. So when we say that fraction is a mathematical statement or expression which is a ratio of two numbers, it simply means that when you are studying fraction, you should be thinking about division. Is that not so? You should be thinking about division. Very important. But then, can you enjoy division without multiplication? Can you enjoy division without multiplication? Oh no, it's not possible. As a matter of fact, you may not understand division except you have good knowledge of multiplication. And that is why the GMAT 41 has always advised and encouraged you to learn your multiplication table. And so I want to say this. If you've not mastered your multiplication skill very well, please make sure you do that before you start learning this topic. Make sure you do that before you move deep into this topic. At least from 2 times to 9 times. At least from 2 times table to 9 times table. Learn those ones. Make sure you know them very well. It's going to help you a lot. I'm not saying you should stop at 9 times table. I am saying at least. Even if you don't want to go more. Because with the 2 to 9 times table, you can easily get the other ones. Remember, I have always told you this, and once again I want to repeat it. Multiplication is the boat you need to cross the mathematics bridge. Having said this, as we are moving into this topic, when it becomes necessary for us to talk about multiplication, to use the knowledge of multiplication, I won't waste time there. Because from our past classes, I have urged you, encouraged you to make sure you learn your multiplication very well. So I want to believe you've actually done the needful. I have defined what fraction is as a mathematical statement or expression which is a ratio of two numbers. Now these two numbers, one of them is called the numerator, the other is called the denominator. We'll talk about that when we come to this part. Fraction is part of a whole. Fraction is part of a whole. You are looking at me now. Just look at me. I am a whole person. Now I have my hand here, right? This hand is part of me. So this hand is just a fraction of my whole person. This is my head. And this my head is part of my whole person. The same thing with you. You are seated there learning. Okay? You have your ears. Your ear is part of you. It's part of your whole. So the same thing, fraction is part of what? A whole. Which means if I give you a whole number, you can actually convert, alright, that whole number to fraction by doing division. But let me say this. A whole number, is it a fraction? Not at all. A whole number is not a fraction. But to get fraction, we usually divide a whole number by something. If I tell you 5, 5 is not a fraction. But I can do something to that 5 to convert it to fraction. What if I have 5 divided by 2? It becomes a fraction. What if I have 5 divided by 8? It becomes a fraction. Are you getting? What if I have something like a 3 whole number, 5 over 7? It becomes a fraction. So normally a whole number is not a fraction. But when you divide that whole number by something, then you have changed it to fraction. I have this example here on the board to help us understand better the meaning, the idea of fraction in real life. Think about orange. If I give you one orange now, I say, okay, divide that orange into maybe 2. You carry your knife, that orange, you cut it into 2. Each of the parts is a fraction of that whole. That one orange has been divided into 2. So it will be 1 over 2. You've gotten your fraction from that 1. 1 over 2. So each of those parts, they are part of that one whole orange. But now let's look at this, my example on the board, okay? I have one whole box. Look at this. If I tell you to draw a square now, you can draw it. Is that not so? So, okay, that is a box. That box is one whole number. One whole box. Before I drew this line inside that divided this box, the box was just a whole box. Are you following, right? Which is one whole. Now, this one whole box has been divided into 9 parts. You can see that. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. I have divided this one whole box into 9 parts. Now, this one whole box that I divided into 9 parts, how do we write it in mathematics? It is written as 1, which is that one whole box. Then you put your division sign. Look at it. You put your division sign. That is divided, and write 9 under, which means 1 that has been divided into 9 parts. You know, this sign is also used to mean division. There is another one we have like this. Your straight line like this, then a dot on top and a dot under. It's still the same as this, okay? But there is how we read this one particularly. We are coming to that. And how do we read this 1 that has been divided into 9 parts? We read it as 1 over 9. It is read as 1 over 9. So take a look. 1 over 9. So this division sign, we pronounce it as over. Sometimes we use this sign for it, slash. This one, slash sign, is still the same as over. It's still the same as division. Is that okay? Now you see clearly that I have one whole box here, and this one whole box, I divided it into 9 parts, and we said you are going to write it as 1 over 9. That 1 over 9 is a fraction. Is that okay? That 1 over 9 is a fraction. Now, there is something I did to these boxes, because I have 9 smaller boxes inside that one whole square box. What did I do to the boxes? Some of them I shaded them. Did you take note of that? Look at this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I shaded them. You can see that with blue marker. It means that out of these 9 smaller boxes, some of them have been shaded. How many of them were shaded? 4. Is that not so? And how do we put it in fraction form? 4 of these small boxes have been shaded. How do we put that 4 in fraction form? Remember, there are 9 smaller boxes here. Is that not so? 9 smaller boxes. So I will say, out of the 9 smaller boxes, I shaded 4. It now becomes 4 out of 9. That 4 out of 9, in mathematics, we write it as 4 over 9. So if I ask you what portion of these boxes are shaded, or if I ask you to find the fraction of the shaded portion, the answer will be 4 over 9. That is the fraction of the shaded portion that we have here. Fraction of the shaded portion is equal to 4 over 9. That is to say, 4 out of that 9 smaller boxes have been shaded. 4 of them have been shaded. Let us go back again to our boxes. You take note that there were some that were not shaded. Now, if I ask you how many boxes were not shaded here, you can easily count and tell me there are 5. That there are 5 smaller boxes that were not shaded. But assuming you don't have this box, you are not seeing it, and I tell you that out of 9 smaller boxes, 4 were shaded, tell me the fraction that was not shaded. How will you get it? How will you get that when you don't see this box? You're not seeing the diagram. Let's go back and see how we get the fraction of unshaded portion. That is the fraction of the part that you did not shade. This is what you would do. You already know the fraction that was shaded, 4 over 9. So you would remove that 4 over 9 from one whole. Remember, that box there is one whole that you divided into 9. So out of that one whole, remove 4 over 9, which is the part, the portion that you shaded. Remove it from that one whole. If you do this, you're going to get 5 over 9, which agrees if you had counted the fraction that I did not shade in that box there. How did I get a 5 over 9? Let us now go to multiplication. Can you see that? You may not understand that without the knowledge of your multiplication. So quickly, start running. Go and learn your multiplication table. Is that okay? Meanwhile, watch as I explain how we got this 5 over 9. I told you it's going to be 1 whole minus 4 over 9. That is, remove the shaded portion, which is 4 over 9, from the 1 whole box there. Now, to get a 5 over 9, this is what you do. This is a whole number, this is a fraction. So quickly, use this denominator, which is 9, to multiply this whole number, which is 1. 9 times 1 will give you what? 9. 9 times 1 will give you 9. Then that 9 minus 4. 9 minus 4 gives us this 5. So you see how we got that 5 portions were not shaded. All you now need to do that 5 over 9, because there are actually 9 smaller boxes. Out of the 9, 5 were not shaded. So once again, come here, 9 times 1 will give you 9 minus 4. You get 5 divided by 9. So you have a fraction of unshaded portion. This is the idea of fraction, and I want to believe that you've gotten this idea. Quickly, please. I talked about numerator and denominator from the beginning. So, what do we mean? What is the numerator of a fraction and the denominator of a fraction? As an example, look at this. Under this note, imagine that I give you x over y. That x and y represent numbers. Are you following, right? X over y. Now, this x that I wrote on top is our numerator. Then y that I wrote under is called denominator. So you know your numerator and denominator now. For example, 5 over 9. What is the numerator? Can I hear? That's correct. 5 is the numerator and the denominator is what? 9. What we are now going to do is to look at the types of fraction. Then we can now see how we can change one of the fraction to another one. Are you ready for that? So let us look at that. In this video, I would like you to learn about the types of fractions. So I'll be teaching you that quickly. There are 3 major types of fraction. One is mixed fraction, the other is improper fraction, and then we have proper fraction. These are the 3 major types of fractions, please. Is that clear? Let us now explain each of them. We'll be starting with improper fraction. What fraction is called improper fraction? A fraction in which the numerator is greater than the denominator. The numerator is bigger than the denominator. Such fraction is called improper fraction. The word improper means something that is not right. It's not supposed to be in that way. Okay, quickly think about this. Imagine a child of 2 years carrying you on his head. I mean, it doesn't make good sense. It's not proper, is that not so? Because that child is quite smaller than you. You are bigger than that child. You're greater than that child. So you now being on top, the child being under, carrying you, is improper. So the same thing goes with the type of fraction called improper fraction. You have a bigger number on top and a smaller number under. So the numerator is greater than the denominator. You can start thinking of some examples of improper fractions now as we look at the ones we have on the board here. So 3 over 2 is an improper fraction, 4 over 3 is an improper fraction, 11 over 5 is an improper fraction. There are many others. You can think of 14 over 6 is an improper fraction, okay? But before I move on to the next type of fraction, let me ask you this question. If I give you 4 over 2, is it an improper fraction? In fact, 4 over 2 is not even a fraction. Because if you do 4 over 2, you would get equal to 2. It's a whole number. That 4 over 2 there is not actually a fraction. It's a whole number. So please take note. For something to be a fraction, it means that the denominator cannot divide the numerator completely, or even if they divide, there will be remainder. Are you following, right? There will be remainder. 4 over 2 is not a fraction, it's a whole number. 6 over 3 is not a fraction because that denominator 3 can divide that 6 completely, there will be no remainder. All right, let us move on to another type of fraction. We're going to talk about proper fraction now. Proper, the word proper in English. Proper means this thing is right. This is how it's supposed to be. So you can think of me now carrying a 2-year-old child on my head. Yes, it's proper because I'm bigger. I'll be under, the 2-year-old child will be on top. So a proper fraction is that type of fraction in which the numerator is less than the denominator. So the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Such type of fraction is called proper fraction. So start thinking of some examples of fraction where numerator is smaller than the denominator. Can you think of 2 over 4? 2 over 4 is a fraction, take notes. But 4 over 2 is not a fraction. 2 over 4 will give you 1 over 2 if you start reducing it. To give you 1 over 2. So please, 2 over 4 is a fraction. But like I explained under improper fraction, 4 over 2 is not a fraction because if you divide it, you get a whole number. But if I give you 2 over 4, it is a proper fraction. That one is a fraction because if you do your division, you will get 1 over 2. If you divide, you get decimal as your answer. So it shows that it's a fraction, okay? Fractions are numbers, when you divide them, you get decimal. You can put them in decimal form. Alright, let's continue with other examples. We have some of them on the board here. 2 over 3 is proper fraction, 3 over 4 is proper fraction, 5 over 11 is proper fraction. In each of them, what did you notice? The numerator is smaller, is less than the denominator. Let us now explain mixed fractions. What fractions are called mixed fractions? This type of fraction has 2 parts. So a fraction that has 2 parts, one of the parts is a whole number and the other part is a fraction. That fraction is actually proper fraction. Such type of fraction is called mixed fraction. Once again, a fraction that has a whole number part and a proper fraction part. That is what we call a mixed fraction. Examples. Let's look at these ones we have on the board. 1 whole number 2 over 3 is a mixed fraction. That 1 is the whole number. That 1 is not a fraction on its own. 1 is not a fraction, it's a whole number. Then 2 over 3 is now the fractional part. So the whole number and the fractional part together gives us what we call the mixed fraction. Now we have another one, 5 whole number 3 over 8. 5 is a whole number. If I tell you 5 on its own is not a fraction, it's a whole number. So 5 is the whole number part of this mixed fraction. Then 3 over 8 is the fraction part. And if you look at this 3 over 8, it is a proper fraction. So always remember that. In mixed fraction, the fraction part is always a proper fraction. Then we have 2 whole number, 1 over 4. It's also a mixed fraction. What is the whole number there? Can I hear from you? That's good. We have 2 whole number. So 2 is the whole number part. And the fractional part is what? 1 over 4. That's good. There are many more examples you can add up to your notes. Please, there are these 3 points I want you to take note of. Because in our next class, we'll be starting from there. One of them is that we can convert, we can change from improper fraction to mixed fraction. And we can also change, we can also convert from mixed fraction to improper fraction. That's point 1 here. Take note of that. Then point number 2, if I give you a question and then the fractions there are all proper fractions, if you add up all the proper fractions, it will give you 1. To give you 1. So that's what I have in point 2 here. For a given question, sum of all proper fractions is equal to 1. Sum means addition. If you add all the proper fractions, you are expected to get what? 1. Then point 3, very important. How do you change from mixed fraction to improper fraction? I have this formula here to guide you. Okay? So look at that. To change from mixed fraction to improper fraction, this is what you will do. You go to the mixed fraction given to you, use the denominator to multiply the whole number. That is, denominator times whole number. Anything you get, add it plus numerator. add it to the numerator, then divide everything by the denominator. Let me quickly show you one. For example, in this 5 whole number 3/8, if I want to convert it to improper fraction, I will use this. Once I have this in my mind, I can quickly do that. Denominator times whole number. The denominator is 8 times the whole number is 5. 8 times 5 will give me 40. Now what you get from that multiplication, add it to the numerator. So the 40 that I got, 8 times 5, 40, I will add it to this numerator, which is 3. 40 plus 3 will give us 43. 43. Then divide that by the denominator. So it's going to be 43 divided by this 8. I have changed this to improper fraction. It simply means 5 whole number, 3/8 as a mixed fraction. If you change it to improper fraction, you would get 43/8. In our next class, we're going to look at how we can change from one type of fraction to another fraction. And then we'll also consider how to order fraction and how to get equivalent fraction. A lot to be considered in our next class. Bye-bye.